All right, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Orange Crush podcast. Think of this as our aftermath podcast. And before we get started with our special guest, Aaron Murray, we want to thank our title sponsor, Chick-fil-A over in Clemson Seneca, for all your catering needs. Check out our friend Herb Tyler and Chick-fil-A. And we also want to thank Lisa Nason and Nason Accounting in Greenville for her sponsorship. But today, we have former Georgia quarterback Aaron Murray. He's now an ESPN and Sirius XM analyst and the host of Snaps, part of the Volume Podcast Network, and the president of the Players Lounge. Aaron, it is an absolute pleasure to have you on today, man. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me on. Just happy that we're at a point now where we're talking real games. It's been a good start to the season, so hopefully that momentum keeps up here going forward.
And I think, speaking of momentum, I think you've built some momentum with Clemson fans, sort of being the bridge of the gap for this Cade Klubnik breakdown. So I'd love to sort of get your initial thoughts on it. It's mainly why we brought you here. You said it's not as bad as it looks, but it's also not as good, obviously, with
Mm.
the outcome of the game. So just some initial impressions from that film study and just what the process went into with that video.
Yeah, it is funny. I started the video by saying something similar of like, after games, you always, like you've made throw 5 touchdowns. Like, oh, I had a great game. And you go watch this film, you're like, oh, it's not like it. There's a couple of things I want to correct. And then obviously you have a game like what Cade had, you obviously like, oh, the world's ending. It must be so terrible. Nothing went right. This offense stinks. Throw it out, bench them. And you watch the tape and you see the moments of really, really good quarterback play. You're like, man, if we could just put it all together. It's never as good as you think, and it's never as bad as you think either. It's like I went into the expectation of I watched it live. I was expecting the film to be bad, not horrific, bad. And I was like, okay, like maybe I set the bar low. This wasn't as bad as I thought it was. So I think there's a lot to work with. He's still very talented. He made some pretty remarkable throws at times in the game, but there are some situations where you kind of sit back and say, And a lot of it was just deep ball accuracy. It was either timing of just trying to hold it on too long, underthrowing receivers numerous times. I mean, I think I counted 4 or 5 times where he took the shot, whether it was a go ball by the outside receiver or the slot fade that was an interception by Malachi Starks, where the ball was late or the ball was significantly underthrown, where that's yards that were left on the table. And maybe 1 or 2 times could have been a touchdown. Like if he hits a guy on stride, your receiver, Clemson's receivers had about 2 yards of separation from the DB. That could have been a touchdown. So like that is the big area of improvement that you want to see that he needs to be better at. And then a couple other times, a little bit happy feet, eyes were kind of all over the place. But that happens when you face a Georgia defense that is as exotic with some of the coverages and blitzes. Sometimes you just get a little bit lost as a quarterback.
Aaron, speaking of what he did well and some of those long throws, I asked head coach Dabo Sweeney just a little bit ago after I went back and watched it. The throw that was kind of in the corner of the end zone that Antonio Williams didn't get to, I thought that was a great throw. Looked like the wide receiver just didn't pick it up. There was another throw that looked like pretty good throw. The wide receiver Cole Turner stopped running on the route, and I'm like, you have those two plays. Maybe it's a little different scenario out there Saturday.
Well, it goes hand in hand, and the one that was the step runner was the one that he was rolling out to the right, launches it down the field. I don't know if it would have been a completion or not. Georgia's safety kind of got over there in a hurry, but he would have had a chance. That's another one. Like receiver got on top of the DB, he saw it, threw it. The kid for some reason just stopped running. So we always want to put the blame on the quarterback. And I did another breakdown of Dylan Raiola, the Nebraska quarterback, and he had a good game. Could have been a lot better because you watch the receivers and just same thing. Like guys aren't running their routes, they're not committing to it. They're a little bit slow off the break. They're a little bit slow off the cut. So like it all kind of plays together. Like the receivers have to be better for Clemson, no doubt about it. Cade has to be better for some of those throws. The running game has to be more consistent. The offense, like this isn't just a one man issue for the Clemson offense. It is truly everyone has to be better at their given position to even help Cade put him in a situation where he feels comfortable. So, yeah, I think the to me, Clemson during my time at Georgia, and then for the good 7 or 8 year run where they're winning championships, they were elite at quarterback and they were elite at receiver. And right now, like they're not elite at quarterback and they're not elite at receiver. So something has to be better. And I think if you're elite at receiver, you could help the quarterback. And obviously, if Cade was elite, he would help bring those receivers along a little bit faster as well.
I think I would love to harp on one thing that you mentioned with the happy feet with Klubnik, and something that when I rewatch the game on Sunday, and the footwork sometimes feels like it's all over the place. Could you maybe
Mhm.
elaborate on what you mean when you're evaluating a quarterback like Klubnik, where the talent is certainly there, but there's moments also where you're scratching your head going, wait, where's this been fixed? Why hasn't this been fixed? Just what do you see with Klubnik's feet? Has it progressed maybe since last year based on what you've seen?
Well, I want to start by saying, as I get into this answer here, they were going against maybe the best defense in the country. So like let's absorb that real quick. Like it's the first game of the season. It's a neutral site, quote unquote. It's in Atlanta, so I wasn't there in the stadium, but I'm guessing it was probably more Georgia fans than Clemson fans. So pseudo away game against an elite defense that has maybe the number one pick in the defensive end taken out the draft in Michael, the number one safety in the country in Malachi Starks, a bunch of other potential first rounders all over the ballpark. Like this was no easy task. So like let's and then plus it's a complicated defense, a very complicated defense. Like Kirby and that side of the football, they do so much pre and post snap with it. So like quarterbacks are going to get confused, and usually when guys are a little bit confused on coverage, the first place you notice it is in their feet. They're just not comfortable. They start moving around a little bit. So you saw that at times from Klubnik throughout the game. I anticipate that's going to be better because they're not going to face another Georgia defense for quite some time, if at all this season. So I think he will perform better from the lower half down, but that's where it starts. I'm even watching a good example for SEC fans, like Jalen from Milrow from Alabama. As I'm watching his tape, his feet are similar in the sense that like they never seem settled. They never seem in a position where he can throw the ball and use his legs really the strength of your body, your legs, the lower half, your glutes, your quads, to be able to drive the football at times. And you saw moments from Jalen in their first game where the ball's fluttering or the ball's behind. Well, his feet aren't set in the right spot. So I would say Cade is better at that than Jalen is. I think Cade is better than maybe was a year ago, but there's still moments where it's not processing as fast up top, which is causing his feet to be a little erratic. So the more comfortable he can get seeing the defense, knowing the offense, and that's something too. Like this is only the first game in year two of this new offense. You're still working out the kinks as well there, and hopefully that does speed up along the way here shortly.
He has to get help from the wide receivers. You mentioned
Yeah.
that. And one of the things that we keep hearing from, the message board, social media, Clemson's wide receivers are getting no separation. They don't get separation, from the defensive backs. What did you see Saturday? Were there guys running open, or did Georgia clamp that down?
Georgia clamped it down pretty well. I mean, the few times that I would say there was two or three times on some of those go balls that there was separation, and you have to be able to hit those plays because you're not going to get a lot of opportunities versus a defense like Georgia. Like very few opportunities are you going to call a shot and that shot's there and you got to hit it. You got to find a way to capitalize, even if it's one time or two times. You can't go over 4 on shots down the field when it comes to some of those go balls. So like even if you hit half of that, 50% on those, that's 60, 70 yards, possibly a touchdown that was left on the board. Even the great pass that was that corner route, which he threw an absolute dime, like Georgia's DB was right there. Like that took a perfectly executed throw from Cade Klubnik to go out there and execute and make that play. So I'm with you. And once again, I say all this going against Georgia's defense, like you set the bar really, really high when it comes to who you're playing against, but you would like to see those receivers create a little bit more separation, which will once again give Cade that confidence to be able to be a little bit more settled in the pocket as well.
I think nothing might settle you more than a home game. You're in an environment that you're comfortable at. It's going to be theoretically inferior competition. I guess as an offense, Aaron, when you're going through the week and you have the results you have against Georgia, what sort of are you looking for from Clemson for maybe that first drive or two, just sort of energize not just the fan base, but just some confidence within the roster as well?
I don't think the defense needs any confidence. I really like Clemson's defense. I think the defense is going to be one of the best defenses in that conference, and can easily lead them to an ACC championship and to a possible playoff berth. I think confidence for the offense will come from running the football. I mean, Maffa had what 59 yards rushing in the game. And I like Maffa, big kid, physical kid, but I also didn't like we talk about like not seeing the explosiveness on the outside from the receivers or the separation creating. Like, is Maffa truly that big, consistent home run threat at the running back position, or is he just a big bulldozer? But 2 yards per carry is not going to cut it. You can't be put behind, you can't lose first and second down and just say, okay, Cade, go out there and win third down for us. Like, you have to run the football. So we want to talk about confidence, run the football, get to third and manageable, have success on first and second down, and then create easy pass situations for your quarterback. And then Cade has to hit the easy ones too. I mean, perfect example, first play of the game, you can't script a better, easier throw for a quarterback. It's a rollout, a running back in the flat. He's 5 yards away from you. You could probably essentially underhand it to the receiver, and that was 15-yard gain right there. Go back and watch it. There was no one in sight of the running back. He catches that, and it's 15 yards before you catch the next defender for Georgia. So like that's a good way to start the game. 15 yards, bam, we're rolling, we're getting some confidence. So run the football, quick hitters, and then hell, the next pass play was a nice quick hitter, 5-6 yards, and the receiver drops it. So you have to hit on those easy completions early to build confidence as an offense, along with running the ball as well.
All right, so I have two questions for you, and the first one will be, with Clemson's offensive inefficiency the past 3 years, people have accused head coach Dabo Swinney of maybe meddling too much in the game plan. They say, well, this doesn't look like Garrett Riley's offense. I saw the sugar huddle, I saw the pistol, I saw some of the drag, some of the counter, and I go, to me, that looks like, a lot of air raid concepts. That looks like Garrett Riley. They're just not executing it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done enough deep dive on Garrett Riley necessarily, going back to like his times at TCU to like compare like what the differences are. I would say based on what I saw from TCU a couple years ago to what Clemson looked like in the game on the weekend, I would say it would lean more towards Garrett and what he wants to do offensively with kind of the formations and the personnel groups and the overall scheme of everything. So like yeah, it's the plays, I think the design of the plays, I wasn't like scratching my head like, why are you calling that? Like some of the other games I broke down, like Nebraska, I was scratching my head a couple times, like, what are we trying to accomplish here? And I'm trying to remember the other game I broke down. I was like, some of the concepts, you're just like, what is the point of this? Like, what are we truly trying to do? And maybe it was just all Nebraska. They had one where they had a smash concept to the field and then a corner to the backside. I believe it was Nebraska. And there was no flat control on the backside. They did a 7-man protection. I'm like, why are you going to run a route where and the quarterback is looking that way and there's a 2-on-1 and no one kind of controlling the corner? So like there wasn't any of those moments at Clemson. I'll say that. It is truly to me, personnel, the plays were there to be had. Perfect example what I just gave you, the flat route, the first play of the game, second or third play of the game where the receiver drops over the middle of the field on a quick stop route, some of the go balls down the field. I thought the game plan was just fine. Players got to go out there and execute and make some of those big time plays in a big time ball game.
And then second question would be, I had some text messages waiting on me after that game from some college coaches, a couple of really good offensive guys, and they say it appears that maybe Clemson doesn't trust Cade a whole lot, judging by some of the play calls. Don't trust your quarterback. Would it be, behoove them if that's the case to maybe just let him go out there and play, like open up the playbook and say, go get it. Don't worry about the mistakes. Just go play. Or should they just keep on the current tack and hey, it's going to get better.
I didn't get the feeling watching the game that there was a trust issue. Like I said, there was numerous shots on the field. I thought he executed some of those corner routes really, really well. Like this wasn't a dink and dunk. This wasn't go watch the Michigan tape and their young quarterback, who I know it's a first year starter. All he was throwing was drags and slants and balls to the outside, and that very few down the field throws. If anything, it was 15 to 20. I think he may have thrown one go ball or post route down the field that ended up being an interception. It didn't feel like that. Like I watched Michigan, even with JJ McCarthy, and then this year with the first game, and say like they don't trust him. They're just trying to protect their quarterback and just taking the kid at like I think 4 yard per completion average on the game too. I didn't get that feeling from Cade. I got the feeling of more of like they just weren't executing and like they were calling shots for him, and for some reason he wasn't hitting it, or the receivers weren't creating separation, or the receivers were dropping the pass. So I think it is to me, stick to your guns, knowing that you look at the schedule and it is, App State. I think NC State's a little overrated, and Stanford, and obviously Florida State's not very good, and Wake Forest and Virginia and Louisville, Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh, like, to me, you look at the rest of their schedule, they should be 11-1. Like, I don't care that it was 34-3 you lost to Georgia. That sucks. 100%. You never want to start the year off with a loss, especially getting just demolished. But you look at the schedule, to me, the ACC is overrated this year. I think NC State's going to lose this week in the Tennessee, and I think they can get embarrassed.
I do
I
too.
think Virginia, yeah, Virginia
Yeah, I
Tech
do too.
lost to Virginia Tech lost to Vanderbilt, for goodness sakes. Like, I had South Carolina over the weekend. You're better than South Carolina. Like, tell me on that schedule, where's the loss? You are significant. You don't have Miami. You don't have Miami. And there's no one else in that conference that is any good. So, like, Clemson, just stick to your guns. You're more talented than everyone else you have on your schedule. Your quarterback showed me some good stuff. Just keep on progressing. I think you're going to look up at Clemson at the end of the season. They'll be 11-1 playing the ACC championship game.
Yeah, and you look at that schedule, a lot has changed in 2 weeks to where Florida State ranked 10th in the preseason AP poll. Virginia
Wow.
Tech was considered a playoff sleeper, and it all falls apart and can quickly change like that. And so I guess one of my final questions to you, Aaron, was more looking at some of the more positives from Clemson's offense in that game. I'd love to get your thoughts on how the offensive line performed. Obviously, Clemson bringing in Matt Luke to
Mhm.
come retool and sort of put in a new philosophy in the trenches. And a lot of Clemson fans that have talked to me, Dave and I have had conversations about this. Most of what we've seen is relatively positive. I know there's a viral video of Sadler and Marcus Tate running into each other, and that's just the one play. But overall, what did you see from that offensive line that maybe as a quarterback, just looking from, hey, I got to trust the guys in front of me to give me some time, it felt like Klubnik had time to be able to
Oh,
survey the
yeah.
field.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, I didn't, it was very few times that I was sitting there like saying to myself, okay, he didn't have time to make this throw, or that, he felt pressure. Like, you're always going to feel pressure. You're always going to, at times have to have subtle movements. And even on that corner route, I thought he did a great job of catching it, subtly sliding to the right a little bit to buy a split second to throw it. But like, very few times did you see like free rushers where like the ball has to get out now or I'm getting decked. It was all little things where you can just move real quick and bam, make the completion. So like in the pass protection, I thought it was fine. Once again, go back to the run game, and with a running back the size and strength of Phil Maffa, you shouldn't be having 2 yards per carry. So like if anything, like yes, you'd like to see some improvement overall from the O line and running back room of being able to run the football to make a little, to create a little bit more balance on offense. But like to me, like if I had to rank issues for Clemson's offense, it would still be like Cade has to be more consistent. The receivers have to be more consistent. And then kind of grouping like that running game with the running backs and offensive line is kind of that third, if you want to call it issue, which I don't think it's a major issue right now.
Aaron, we appreciate your time. I'm just glad we have football to talk about and football to watch.
Amen.
Georgia's really good. I was impressed with them. Obviously, Carson Beck, when they made the changes Saturday coming out in the second half and went to the quick game, trying to get some of their playmakers out in space, running a lot of those orbit and jet sweeps and orbit motion, just changed the game. Love to see that part of it. Maybe we can do this again at some point this season. I'd love to have
Yeah.
you back on.
Well, I plan on hopefully breaking down more positive Cade Klubnik videos going forward. Don't think I'll do one this week since they're playing App State. Maybe we'll see how it goes. But definitely maybe one after that NC State game to see what the progress is from week 1 to week 3. And like I said, if you do get progress from Cade, which I based on the film, like there's a lot of juice left to be squeezed out of that one. 11-1, and we're all forgetting about what happened in week 1. I anticipate that being Clemson.
Aaron, we appreciate your time. Where can our Clemson fans find you? You mentioned you're calling the South Carolina game this previous weekend. Where will we find you for this weekend if you're on the call, and just where can fans follow you on social media?
Yeah, so I'll be on the Ole Miss call this weekend, SEC Network at 4:15, 4:20, I think is the kickoff. So excited to cover that offense who had a monster game last week. You can find me on all socials at Aaron Murray 11 on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that good stuff. And then, like you said, I do a daily podcast on with Snaps with me and a guy named T. Bob Abear, who's based out of Baton Rouge. Have a lot of fun with it. Cover college football across the coast. Obviously, main focus on the SEC, Big Ten, and ACC. But go check that out. We appreciate it.
Awesome,
Somebody
guys.
named T-Bob Abear has to be out of Baton Rouge. They just have to
Yes.
be.
Well, his dad actually, he grew up in Atlanta. His dad used to be the quarterback for the Falcons.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
Bobby.
Bobby
Bobby
Abear.
Abear.
Yep.
How about that? How about that? Well, guys, this was Aaron Murray, former Georgia quarterback. You can find him on Snaps. Find him on the SEC Network calling some games this weekend and throughout the year. College football's back. It's no more hypotheticals. We want to thank Aaron for his time. We want to thank you for listening, and subscribe to Clemson TigerNet wherever you're listening. We appreciate your time, guys. Take care and have a good one.